Squidnova presents 30 Minutes of Diabolical, Volume 2, Session 7.
Is this atmosphere at a Paris working for you?
Oui, monsieur. Works for me.
Nice. And of course, this is your 30 Minutes of Diabolical, and welcome to it. In this session, there's blood in the water as Team Diabolical goes swimming with a perfect predator.
Well, it sounds like we're going to need a bigger boat.
It's apt. Next, we ponder the dawn of the unceremonious celebrity death.
It's going to be glorious.
I believe you're correct. And finally, as the sky falls, we drop thoughts on the art of the downpour.
It's no Chicken Little here.
You're killing it tonight. As always, we welcome you into the Diabolical Penthouse, where mood lighting and electronic beats will stimulate the senses.
And that razor wit loves to slice and dice.
Oh, man. And then there's the company, and that company starts with one Chuck Rendon. Chuck, how art thou?
Hey, I'm good, man. I got my glass of beer, and I am ready for this intriguing conversation.
We're giddy tonight.
We are.
And I'm a nocturnal human known as Curtis Harrod.
And I would say with that, synchronization is complete. I think it's time to get started.
As everybody gets comfortable up here in the penthouse, the best way to reach out to us is definitely on Twitter, wouldn't you say?
That's certainly our favorite platform. Yeah.
At 86 Cujo. If we're in your ears right now, hit me up.
And of course, hit me up at Romba. We'd love to get you involved in the show.
I know this conversation is going to move along swimmingly, but
yes,
we'd be remiss if we forgot the third member of Team Diabolical. Chuck, will you please?
As always, we are joined by King Night Owl, the knowledgeable one himself, and anytime he speaks up, you can rest assured some serious knowledge was dropped for you on this session's show notes, so stay tuned for that.
It's a very proud animal.
Very regal.
And keeping this conversation smooth, and in my case, sweet. Chuck, what are you drinking over there tonight?
Well, this week I've invited the Lost Abbey Brewing Company in once again, out of San Marcos.
You've had their beer once before.
Once before, yes. Okay. This week I happen to be partaking in their Carnival Ale.
That's festive.
Very festive. Hey, we opened the show with Paris, so I thought, what better beverage to start with.
Fitting.
And I got to say, so far, I'm digging it. It's an interesting kick here. It starts kind of sweet, and then it has a sort of bitter aftertaste. So it's firing all of my receptors right now, so I'm in a good place.
Hold on. I've been sitting on this one for months. Layers of flavor. You're welcome.
Oh, man. Add that one into the archive.
Yes, sir.
I have to say, though, I'm looking across at you, and it looks like somebody has made a return to the penthouse.
No, Bay is definitely back. I went out of my way, got some peace tea, and to kind of send a veiled shout out to one of our listeners up north, I got some snowberry tea. And it is sugar-y sweet, man. It is sweet.
Snow is sugar, I take it.
One would assume.
Sugarberry.
But it's got a polar bear on the label.
As snowberry should. Yeah.
Indeed.
Good stuff. Well, sounds like we have a couple good ones this session, so cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers. Beverages are one thing. Dope is something altogether different. So if we're going to break out some dope, I say we bring Diamond Saints into the penthouse and listen to some dope as well.
Sounds great to me. And my dope this week is actually a carryover from last week, what was originally going to be my dope. But of course, the unfortunate events with Leonard Nimoy, I had to mention that epic picture from Terry Virts.
As well you should.
But my dope this week is an announcement that Disney recently made.
Oh, well, that's right in your wheelhouse.
And, as we found out in the Walt Disney episode we did, I am definitely a Disney fan, and of course, I'm an animation fan.
Yes, you are.
And one of my favorite series when I was a kid was DuckTales, part of the epic Disney afternoon. So when I was going to elementary school, I would get off of school and immediately plop down to watch DuckTales.
I have to ask.
Yes.
We can all appreciate the old animation, Steamboat Willie, etc. Do you think you will still be able to appreciate DuckTales in the same way?
We'll see. I do appreciate the fact that they're bringing it back. Of course, it could be very bad. We'll see.
It'll be interesting what kind of animation style
it's going to be on the Disney XD channel, so kind of my feelings on that channel. So it kind of has strike one there, but it is DuckTales, so I'm certainly going to give it my attention, at least initially. But just my nostalgia was just buzzing when I found this out, because that was such a classic TV series. And honestly, the episodes still hold up today, in my opinion. So
I'll keep an eye out for it.
I'm curious what they got. And I know they're approaching some of the original voice talent, so
interesting.
We'll see what happens, man. But definitely my dope.
Nice.
What do you got?
Well, my dope is kind of old school, too. I've been doing a retro sci-fi tour through old sci-fi.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It has been pretty revelatory, to be honest. As I mentioned, I watched Blade Runner, and the score was up in my mind.
All right.
I did watch the first 2 Alien movies this week.
Ah, okay.
If you've not watched them as an adult, I think you'll find new appreciation. The characters are layered. There's a lot of subtlety that I did not pick up, obviously, because I was scared out of my mind when I first watched them. But that's my dope, the whole experience. I've forgotten about the old sci-fi.
Yeah, well, you got to hand it to Ridley Scott. Those first 2 films, particularly the first one, it does a masterful job of just setting this ominous, undertone throughout.
Well, and not to tip our hand, but just like Jaws, they did just enough to make the alien terrifying.
Right.
Like whether he's doing that kind of like handstand thing above that person, then slowly lowering,
Yes, exactly.
Like that's good stuff.
No, it's great stuff. Scary, but then you also can appreciate as you get older, there's a bit of social commentary thrown in there, especially when it comes to the synthetic organisms and.
You do, and if you enjoyed Prometheus and you're not, and like maybe the original series is a little rusty, it's definitely worth dusting on.
Yeah, and likewise too, you re-immerse yourself in that original series, you might have a little bit better appreciation for Prometheus.
That's a stretch. My dope, though, it was
Nicely
tasty.
done. Totally dope.
Kind of branching off of our dope. Obviously, there's big blockbuster sci-fi movies, but there's also B movies too, which I know captures our attention on the regular.
They're usually entertaining.
They are.
Some way.
If you're a sci-fi junkie and you just want to see freakish beasts wreak havoc on people, there's only one network that you really tune into.
Gotta tune into sci-fi, man.
And of course, we're a little ahead of the curve on this one, but Sharknado 3 kind of announced some casting. Kind of had the social network a buzz a little bit this week.
Well, Sharknado is an interesting property because it really was born out of social media. I mean, that's what really caught this thing on fire.
Explain yourself, Chuck.
Well, for anyone who's familiar with the Sci-Fi Channel, every year they come out with some sort of movie that is about ridiculous mutated creatures. Yes.
Ice spiders.
You know
what I'm talking about.
Yeah. It's I would just love to be in those production meetings. By the way, you can just picture like what 2 animals.
That's what Hollywood should be
combined.
The writer's room, brother.
Oh man,
my goodness,
it'd be epic. And then Sharknado.
Well, Sharknado was the hashtag that kind of set the world on fire.
Yeah, by all rights or by all accounts, this film really should have came and went. But it just blew up on social media. Everybody was talking about it. So, of course, Sci-Fi immediately greenlit a second one, and that one did even bigger ratings. And then, of course, we're getting the third one.
Well, the second one was a Sharknado in New York, I believe.
Yes.
It's hard to visualize the Sharknado. I mean, sharks are just plummeting out of the sky, nose first. I mean, is that what you're...
It's just it's a great visual, man.
It's incredible.
You're just picturing... It's exactly what it is. It's a tornado with sharks. And apparently it can happen 3 different times. So,
Well, who knows how many times it's going to happen?
Well, I'm sure we'll get Sharknado 50 eventually.
I mean, and some of the talent is noteworthy. There are kind of some names from the 90s. Tara Reid from the American Pie franchise heads it up.
Right. And then Ian Ziering from 90210 fame, which, we haven't.
Why does his name make me laugh?
Oh, man. I don't know. I just, I was never really that big into 90210.
No.
Not really their demo.
Not a Peach Pit man yourself?
No. I'm amused that you even know that reference. So that's good.
Far and wide, brother. That's our knowledge. You know that.
Nice. But, I mean, this movie just reinvigorated his career because nobody was talking about this guy until Sharknado.
He is smiling probably bigger than anyone in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, I mean, if I were him, I would be draped in Sharknado merchandise, and
he may have been the left shark for all we know.
But that'd be great promotion.
Well, I mean, that's yet another entry point into maybe a couple sharks. I mean, there's an obvious choice: sharks from fiction that still have your mind abuzz, Chuck.
Yeah, well, let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way here, because of course we're both thinking Jaws. Because when you think sharks, you go right to Jaws. I mean, it's a classic for a reason.
Well, it's not the first time we've mentioned it in the Penthouse.
Absolutely, with good reason. And
it's the score, which maybe it's in our ears right now. I'm not sure, but
oh man, it's
that
so menacing and. It was so great because, a shark, it's really hard to give a shark personality, right? I mean, it is what it is, but This music really kind of gave that shark an identity.
Well, and anytime, they had that POV shot, like coming through the water.
Yeah.
It made your chest tighten.
Just seeing that fin, I mean, and that was your worst fear. I know after watching that, like, I was nervous in any sort of water, even my bathtub, just like, I do not want to see that fin pop up, right?
What other sharks come to mind for you out of pop culture?
Well, a funny one, of course, you got to go with the Austin Powers films. The friggin' sharks with lasers with Dr. Evil.
We never got to see how lethal those sharks were just because Dr. Evil was so elaborate with his plans, but...
Yeah, but just classic sci-fi archetype. I mean, Austin Powers, of course, they tried to tie into that 50s sort of sci-fi. Yeah. A shark with laser. My favorite thing though was there was a company that came out with an actual shark as a laser pointer. So it was literally a shark with a laser on its head, and the laser was a laser pointer.
I'm sorry that didn't get a wider release. That would have been a hoot.
It was epic. I think it was like Think Geek or something like that, but
okay.
It was awesome.
Am I wrong, or was there a shark that attacked Batman in Batman 66?
Oh gosh, the bat shark repellent. Oh man, you just lit my mind up right now. Nice. The Batman 66 movie, man. There was
that was the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
They were in the Batcopter and Batman's on the rope ladder, and you just see him come up and there's a shark like stuck to it.
Well, they paid homage to that in Arkham City, I believe.
They did, yeah.
Where you play the game and you have to
Good call.
Infiltrate Penguin's club, I guess it is.
That was actually an intense scene too, by the way.
I agree.
Especially when you first started, because that shark kind of was jarring.
Well,
when it first popped
he
up.
feels like a boss, so you don't know exactly how it's going to go.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, that was a great moment there.
Well, another one, we were talking about Jaws. And so
we were.
This one, Jaws 3, I'm going to reference here.
Nice. This time it's personal?
Right.
Okay.
And not for a good reason. But as you recall, Jaws 3 was where the shark invaded SeaWorld.
Yeah, I do recall that.
And there was that scene towards the end where you just see him like charging like the offices, the corporate offices, I guess, of SeaWorld. It's
okay.
And underwater. Why, I don't know, but
why not?
That's and it's funny because they shoot a tight shot of the shark's face, and you almost see like the shark is kind of like grinning as he's like going to plow through the glass, and it was just such a cornball shot. And of course, it looks so fake when he actually busts through the glass. It's really bad. But
well, sharks do smile. We've seen that in a Shark's Tale, I believe, and Finding Nemo, possibly.
So it's just intriguing. I'm actually interested to hear how that conversation went for the production with SeaWorld in that movie, because SeaWorld
they're not having great PR.
Well, today they're not. Yeah, I'm sure. They love to be associated with that Jaws film, but they didn't probably come off the best. So,
Okay, that leads us to maybe a transition in the conversation. Deep Blue Sea, a movie which I believe still holds up. Would you concur?
Yeah, no, it's definitely has its moments. It's cornball, but it's
smart cornball.
There you go. That's a good description.
Well, because they have LL Cool J,
right?
Who kind of went 8 Mile when he did the rap for it. My head is like a shark's fin. I mean, he did.
Nice.
But he survives the movie.
Yeah.
Spoilers, obviously.
Right. Well, yeah.
But he survives when of course you expect the cook to die, or you expect LL Cool J to die.
Sure.
But there was probably the biggest star in that movie at that time. Is that the right?
I would say so. I'm assuming you're talking about Sam Jackson.
Right.
Yeah.
Which he was just coming off of, I want to say Pulp Fiction, or that was just in the recent past when he did
Yeah,
this.
it was definitely, he was certainly a big commodity because of that. It was like that era.
And he goes into what should be a character-defining monologue down in the bay when everybody's lost hope.
Right.
And that brings on a moment that we're kind of speculating if it was kind of the dawn of a certain kind of death.
Yeah, we talked about this before we started recording here. And, for my mind, I don't know whether it's the first, but it's certainly the one that sticks out in my mind the most.
Yeah, if you're 20s to 40, it probably does.
Yeah, I mean, it came out of nowhere, especially you had a big name actor here.
Right.
He was clearly in the middle of delivering some monologue that, okay, this is going to be some sort of important plot device.
Yeah.
Turns out, no, it was just to, as a surprise.
It was just so he could get whiplashed around by a huge Mako or something.
Which just, it was great, man. I mean, kudos to Sam Jackson for,
If you're up in the penthouse and another one comes to mind, maybe an earlier film, please drop a tweet on us.
I would love to hear any surprise celebrity deaths.
Aside from Sam Jackson ending up in the jaws of death, is there any other unceremonious celebrity deaths that occur to you at this moment?
Well, this was one that's just fresh in my mind, but Zombieland and Bill Murray.
Nice.
Yeah. Zombie Bill Murray, man, which was it was a classic scene, and you didn't expect him to die, which was funny.
Well, I'm going to stay in that same genre with Z Nation, and I believe his name is Tom Everett Scott.
Okay, right, yeah.
He was in a couple of films, Dead Man on Campus and Slackers.
That Thing You Do is where I know him from, but yeah.
Yeah, but he gets capped in the middle of the first season, which is strange because they establish him as kind of the Rickroll for Z Nation.
No, that's a good call, man. And that was, because he was the star of the show for the first couple episodes.
The voice of reason.
Yeah.
And his death was kind of Boba Fett-like. You're just like, oh, really? That's it?
Yeah.
So, I mean...
It did come out of nowhere, and it wasn't very memorable.
This conversation is going to take some turns before it's over. Might be a great time to take an interlude.
Sounds about right.
But before we take that interlude, how's the Carnival Brew treating you, Chuck?
Well, I have to say, man, it's doing its job because I'm filling the party.
You are.
Tell you.
Well, what's the alcohol content on that stuff?
It's just 8%, but it's a pretty tall glass of beer.
It is. You're handling it, man. This conversation, sharks.
What about you, man? How's Bay treating you over there?
I'm energized, man. I don't know if it's the conversation or the beats. Maybe it's
combination
in concert.
There you go.
Let's go ahead and take that interlude with a track from Brothel. When we return, we'll discuss our thoughts on what happens when the sky starts raining death. Join us.
Moi je fais la vie. Non. Allez.
Chuck, place one word on that track that was just up in our ears.
I would say blessed, man.
It did bless our ears.
It did.
That was pretty incredible.
Good stuff, man.
Well, if we're talking about Sharknado, and more to the point, things that get tossed up in the air and eventually rain down on your head with destruction.
Nice.
That definitely got our mind a buzz.
It did, man. It got us thinking about other classic scenes in film or fiction even that, had some sort of object or craziness ensuing, coming from the sky.
And of course, you pulled some of the brightest minds in your circle.
I did.
Chuck, drop some knowledge on us.
We got some fun ones from Twitter, man. I think my favorite that we have to lead off with is...
We have to?
The Boeing bomb from Joe Dirt.
Well, that's a real fear.
It really is. It is a practical fear, but...
and just in case you're not hip to Urban Dictionary, a Boeing bomb is when excrement gets ejected from a plane and it freezes as it drops.
Yeah, as it falls through the atmosphere, it freezes, and so you're left with this just big frozen hunk of,
I have to think that there are strategic moments when they drop them at sea or something.
You would think.
I doubt it's a practice anymore.
And as far as I know, or at least according to Google, there's been no Boeing bomb deaths.
How would you even explain that death?
Oh, gosh, man.
It would be such a shameful mark on your family that you'd just be like,
yeah.
No, we're not talking about how he died. You'd make up another reason how he died. Anyway.
You got it, right?
The Boeing bomb.
The Boeing bomb. And just that scene, how Joe Dirt believes it's a meteor.
Yeah.
And it's like his best friend for a minute there. And the cringeworthy scene where he's like eating food off of it. And
yeah, eating fries off the meteorite, as it were.
Oh, man. Yeah. You're just cringe. Yeah, as soon as you see that.
It's a good pick. I did not see that one coming.
I didn't see it coming either, so hey.
What a strange mind that came from.
Oh, man. Definitely our kind of mind.
I agree. It's diabolical, man.
Another one I got from Twitter, which this one was a fun one, and this is a callback to our sci-fi weapon session we did a couple sessions ago. We brought in Ghostbusters.
We did.
So, of course, someone brought in the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And the end of Ghostbusters, as they take him out, you just have the marshmallow, covering New York City.
What a mess, man.
Oh, gosh, dude. And I got to tell you, as soon as this was mentioned, I loved it, man. Because number one, anytime I can talk Ghostbusters, it's going to be a good time in the Penthouse.
That was such a crazy scene to see, just that white foam just splashing down on everybody.
No, it was just great. And then the whole thing leading up to that is how Gozer gave them the choice, choose your destructor. And then, Ray, of course, thought the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That was just classic.
That might be my second sci-fi franchise that I digest.
Oh, dude,
or third, rather.
It's a good one, man. I just actually watched it with my dad a couple days ago again, and
that's two crazy ones. How can you top those? What else you got?
Really can't. I had a couple people also referenced Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
I thought of that one myself.
It's funny because my mind didn't immediately go to that film. It went to another film, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it's certainly an appropriate one. Especially, being a fan of animation, that was definitely
Well, and meatballs are so beloved. For them to be falling out of the sky and taking people out.
Well, and talk about an intriguing scenario. You had like hamburgers falling out of the sky in this film, spaghetti and all this stuff. And I'm like, in a world where, especially parts of the world where famine is a real thing,
let's make it happen.
Raining some cheeseburgers is not a bad thing.
I do recall such was the animation that you felt the weight of the food as it hit the ground. Like, there was some great animation at play.
Yeah, no, that's a good call, man. It was, it wasn't a Disney film. A lot of people actually assume it was, but it was a good one, and certainly relevant to this conversation, that's for sure.
Indeed.
But my personal pick,
okay.
And this is the one that, as soon as we started talking about this topic, the film that, lit up my mind, and that's taking it back to the 80s again, of course.
Please.
And a little film called The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Yes. Is it fair to hang esoteric?
Yeah,
Does that apply?
I would say that definitely applies here. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are just wondering, what the heck is this movie? I've never heard of it.
King Night Owl's on it.
Absolutely. The little gem that dropped in the U.S., at least in 1984. It was released in Africa in 1980. It's kind of a National Geographic documentary.
It feels it, yeah.
Style film that follows this like African tribe. And the start of the movie is there's a plane overhead and some dude like chucks a Coke bottle like outside the plane.
Like the green glass.
Yeah, the old school glass bottle lands in the tribe. And of course, they just think this is like a gift from the gods as some amazing tool.
They do quite a few things with it.
They do. You know, they're like breaking up coconuts with it. They're building things with it. You know, I mean, Coke had to love this because how many people went out and bought a Coke bottle, you know?
The unforgettable Coke bottle scene from the movie. Chuck, what is it?
Well, my favorite is, so after they realize that this Coke bottle is causing strife within the village.
Envy, yes.
Right. You know, the main protagonist decides to get rid of it and he just chucks it in the sky like as to give it back to the gods.
Return to sender, yeah.
Yeah, and it just, you know, of course gravity takes it back down and it hits one of his kids on top of the head. And, you know, so of course that's
oh, man.
Further.
He ends up throwing it into the sea, does he not?
Yeah, he the whole movie is him going on this mission, like this walkabout. He's trying to walk this Coke bottle to the edge of the earth to just chuck it so it wouldn't do any further harm.
That's so crazy, dude. So crazy that you even bring that up.
I'm surprised myself that this movie just popped right in my head because I literally have not seen this since I was a kid.
The Diabolical Duo is going to be downloading it here pretty soon. You know that?
Yeah, absolutely. But I encourage anyone, if you have not seen this film, you know, or at least do a quick YouTube search for the Coke bottle scene because it's
well worth it.
It's definitely worth your time.
I have to throw down, obviously, Wizard of Oz when you drop a house on somebody. That's pretty memorable.
Right.
But I do want to go back to the camp scene real quick. Obviously, Sharknado, throwing sharks on people. I thought Z Nation, yet another sci-fi production, did the Z-Nado.
Z-Nado, yeah.
That was a very cool visual, dude.
It was, actually.
You see like bodies just raining out of the sky, and of course they do face plants and get contorted,
but
then they start to crawl again.
What I love about it, too, is, of course, it was an homage to Sharknado.
Right.
But this one, you know, if you're in a zombie apocalypse, I can buy the fact that if a tornado comes blowing through there, you know, okay, inevitably zombies are going to get sucked up into that. So it's believable, and, you know, I think it sets up certainly an intriguing visual, man.
I kind of have a critically acclaimed one to wrap up my side.
Oh, bring it.
Magnolia, a movie that was very dramatic. It kind of speaks to the kind of populace in LA.
Nice.
And then they have that scene where the frogs kind of rain from the sky and derail everybody's story. Like, it was bizarre, but there are accounts. I'll drop a name here. Charles Fort, probably the real life Fox Mulder from like the 1850s or something.
Good name drop.
Yeah, indeed. We're going to have to talk about Charles Fort someday. But he would travel around and take in stories about like blood raining from the sky. You know, obviously it was minerals that was traveling.
Sure.
But yeah, crazy stuff, dude. I mean, there's crabs that fall from the sky, fish, you know, all sorts of tornadoes that throw things around.
That's a good call, man.
Magnolia.
Well, I love that pick, and I think it's only appropriate to end things on what I deem a time travel pick.
Oh, nice. Here.
And that was, you know, a couple people referenced this from the film Donnie Darko.
A cult classic.
Absolutely. And the jet engine that, you know, fell from the sky.
Started that chain reaction, yeah. No, it's things falling out of planes.
Yeah, you know, hey, we talked about the Boeing bomb. Watch those planes overhead, man. You never know what you're going to get.
Craziness. A conversation that started off with Sharknadoes and ended with jet engines falling out of the sky. It happens.
We went full gamut here, man. Sharknado to Donnie Darko. That's an epic win in my book, man.
It's crazy. Yeah. And that's exactly what Diabolical Conversations should consist of.
That's what you get in the penthouse, brother.
How about for our decompression, we head to Germany for a dreamscape? How's that sound?
Sounds appropriate, man.
It is. So in a conversation where we went from sharks to Boeing bombs to houses being dropped on people.
Oh, gosh, man. My mind is still abuzz.
Chuck, what's your diabolical takeaway?
Well, you know, just being so epic to me, I have to give it up to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Good call. Good call.
it took me back to Ghostbusters, and I'm loving it. And gosh, I would love to be present and when just raining some marshmallow goodness.
Why not?
Down on me. Yeah. What's your takeaway?
Just because you took my mind back about 25 years, the gods must be crazy. Did not see that coming when I stepped into the penthouse today. Kudos to you.
Who would have thought when we started this podcast that we'd be able to talk about the gods must be crazy, man?
It's been destiny since the beginning.
Oh, dang.
It's all led to this.
Love it. Yeah, it has.
And of course, all roads lead back to Twitter. And I can be reached at 86 Cujo. Hit me up about Death from Above. I'm good like that. Chuck, please drop some personal knowledge.
Well, of course, you can reach me at Romba on Twitter. So please, night or day, float your conversations my way. I would love to interact with you. And speaking of Twitter, though, we made a call at the beginning of the show that if you'd like to get involved in our show, please use hashtag Team Diabolical. It's the easiest way we'll find you, and we would love nothing more than to get your voice up here in the penthouse.
That's what makes this great.
And if you enjoyed what you heard in this session, and hopefully you did, you could find us on iTunes as well as Stitcher Radio, and of course, various other platforms at this point.
One of those platforms being SoundCloud, which we're quickly becoming the greatest underground SoundCloud podcast out there.
But hey, a quick search for 30 Minutes of Diabolical and you'll find us. Hit the subscribe button, become one with Team Diabolical.
Joining up with us is like that scene from The Lawnmower Man, the digital coitus. It's beautiful.
Come
to some people.
Digital coitus with us.
There you go.
Please. Where do we go from there,
man.
really?
Home.
For all those hoots you heard from King Night Owl, make your way over to diabolical30.com. Under Volume 2, Session 7, you'll find our show notes. Read them, level up.
Before the wheels come off, Chuck, our diabolical artists for this session. Shall we elevate?
I think a couple of those wheels have come off already, bro.
I think so too.
Well, we got things kicked off with Course. They're based out of Paris, which we love.
That was a very aggressive track, as the name might suggest.
It was, man. Perfect opening. And then we enjoyed an interlude with Brothel, who's definitely into the trap music, and it certainly trapped my heart.
If you've not heard of Brothel, give it 5 minutes. You'll hear him.
Marcus, we love you, man. Good stuff. And of course, we're decompressing to Majima out of Germany and their song Dream Train. I'm definitely feeling this.
That's a tricky name because we're breaking code as we say it. There it is.
Oh, there you go.
And of course, with Sharks on our mind, our diabolical cover art from Hector Lopez here in the US. He drew what appears to be the specs for a mechanical shark. Chuck, are you feeling it?
I am. It kind of looks like some sort of ominous shark transformer.
I would like to see this shark animated. Would you?
I would, man. I would watch that show.
The glowing red eyes are kind of the cap on it. I like it.
Diabolical, man. You gotta love it.
Cheers.
And I believe with that, our time in the penthouse is coming to a close. So how did Bay Peace Tea treat you this session?
The snowberry did me right.
Nice.
I think you know this.
Yeah, I can tell you have that glow in your eye.
And you with your brew.
The Lost Abbey with Carnival. I dug it. Great glass of beer. Certainly added to this wonderful conversation. What more can be said, man? We brought in The Gods Must Be Crazy.
All right, we can drop the mic.
Mic drop ensued. And on that note, we will catch y'all next time. Take care. I trailed off into nothing. It trailed off into nothing as per usual.